Ladies and gentlemen, we are now arriving at Toronto Pearson International Airport. The people arriving with Mom are all from Czechia, a family of 20 people all traveling together. Yes, that's right, a large Czech family of over 20 people simultaneously boarded the flight to Canada. From the grandmother to the teenage grandchildren, 3 generations embarked on a journey of boundless potential, now shaking the entirety of Europe. Even more surprising things were to come. After they returned to Czechia, long queues of blonde-haired, blue-eyed Czech people began forming outside the specialized Maple Leaf Mart in Prague. Tens of thousands of Europeans are flooding into the immigration checkpoints at Toronto Pearson every day. What exactly happened to this family of 20? How did a mere 2-week trip to Canada change an entire family and ignite a Canada fever across Europe? This unbelievable, shocking story begins now. Before we start, a like and subscribe would greatly help in introducing more Canadian stories. Hello everyone, I'm Anna, living a busy professional life in Prague, Czechia. That evening after work, I was sitting on the sofa scrolling through my phone when a random short video popped up on the screen. It was a night view of the city of Toronto. In the video, a woman was jogging alone past 12 a.m. She looked completely at ease, jogging leisurely with her headphones on. At first, I couldn't believe it, because this was a scene unimaginable in Europe. After 11 p.m. in Prague, it is not recommended for women to go out alone. My parents always cautioned me to be careful, and I myself am accustomed to taking a taxi late at night. But the situation in the video was different. The streetlights were bright, every convenience store was lit up, and besides the jogging woman, there were people taking walks, riding bicycles, naturally coming and going. The night streets were vibrant, just like the daytime. I read the comments. One said you could get a hot, ready-made meal at a convenience store even at midnight in Canada. Another mentioned that 24-hour shops were everywhere and delivery was available late at night. I wondered, could such a country truly exist? Curiosity piqued. I posted the video in our family group chat. Our family is a large 3-generation extended family, starting with my grandparents plus my parents, my uncle's family, and my aunt's family, totaling over 20 people. Since we frequently gather for holidays or weekends, the family chat is always active. The video immediately got a reaction. The first to respond was my 6-year-old nephew. He was a fan of Canadian indie music, so he was quite interested in the country. He asked if the video was real. I replied that I wasn't sure myself. That evening, the family gathered at Grandma's house. We were originally meeting to prepare for Grandpa's birthday, but the conversation naturally shifted to Canada. My parents' generation in their 60 seconds were skeptical. They had a strong impression of North American countries being focused on vast spaces and potentially less safe or developed in terms of public systems compared to Europe. But the younger generation was different. The nephews liked listening to English and French Canadian pop. My uncle used products from companies with Canadian ties. My sister had purchased specialized Canadian artisanal soap through overseas shipping. Canada was closer to our lives than we thought. Then Grandpa spoke. He mentioned that the cost of living in Czechia had recently soared and traveling within Europe was also expensive. My uncle quickly looked up flight prices online and was surprised to find that the airfare to Canada was similar to going to Spain or Italy. Checking accommodation and meal costs was even more astonishing. Hotel prices in Toronto were cheaper than in Prague or Rome, and restaurant prices were reasonable. Moreover, public transportation fares were half the European standard. Economically, a trip to Canada would not be a huge burden. Grandma made a suggestion. She said, "Why don't we all go and see it for ourselves?" Our family hadn't traveled together in over 20 years. After the nephews were little, everyone got busy and we hadn't had the chance to gather. Coordinating 20 people at once was not easy. Scheduling was a problem, and booking 20 flight tickets at once was challenging. But the family was enthusiastic. Everyone adjusted their holidays, took time off school, and coordinated the itinerary. We prepared for 2 months. The more we learned about Canada, the more surprising things we discovered. World-leading internet speed, highly developed public transit systems, advanced healthcare, and more kept popping up. But I was still half believing, half doubting, because online information can be exaggerated. I felt I had to see it for myself. The night before departure, I couldn't sleep. More than anticipation, there was worry. Could a large family of 20 travel safely in an unfamiliar country? Would the language barrier be okay? Could Grandpa and Grandma endure the long flight? but at the same time, I felt excited. I wanted to see with my own eyes if the night streets in the video were really that safe. I also wanted to experience whether the 24-hour convenience stores were really that convenient. Most importantly, traveling with the whole family was a special event in itself. And so, all 20 of us boarded the plane bound for Canada. At that moment, I didn't know that this trip would change our family's destiny. The moment we arrived at Toronto Pearson International Airport is still unforgettable. The passage from the plane to the immigration hall was different from what we expected. The entire ceiling was a giant screen showcasing the real-time scenery of Canada's seasons. From spring blossoms to autumn maples, it felt like walking through nature. While waiting for immigration screening, what surprised me most was the waiting time. Even with 20 people, it took less than 30 minutes. Multiple e-gates were set up. You just scanned your passport and face for immediate passage. Grandpa passed with the help of a staff member. At the baggage claim, I was surprised again. Our luggage had already been grouped and collected in one spot. We didn't have to wait long by the conveyor belt. A staff member explained that luggage for unified group bookings is automatically sorted. It was amazing how efficient the airport system was. From the airport to the hotel, we took the UP Express train. Going down to the underground level, a clean platform appeared. The train arrived quickly with departures less than 10 minutes apart. Even more surprising was the train itself. Every seat had a charging port and free Wi-Fi was provided. Even as we traveled at over 100 kilometers per hour, the mobile internet connection never dropped. The scenery outside the window made everyone exclaim. Skyscrapers stood tall, harmoniously arranged with green spaces. A waterway like the Don River or Lake Ontario waterfront ran through the city with parks and bike paths extending along the edge. The systematic city planning was evident at a glance. Arriving at Union Station in downtown Toronto, we took taxis. The driver spoke a little English, but not fluently. However, a tablet installed in the car provided real-time translation. I spoke English, which converted to the driver's language, and the driver's reply was converted back to English. Thanks to this system, we communicated easily. We arrived at the hotel around 10 p.m. After checking in and dropping our luggage in the rooms, my 5-year-old nephew said he was hungry. I worried about finding an open restaurant at this hour. The front desk staff recommended a nearby convenience store, explaining it was open 24 hours and sold hot food. Half skeptical, I walked to the convenience store near the hotel. It was like the one in the video. It was past 11 p.m., but it was brightly lit with customers coming and going. Inside, rice bowls, ready-made sandwiches, noodle cups, and various foods were neatly arranged. A staff member kindly showed us how to use the microwave. We could heat our food and sit at the tables inside the store to eat. The nephews chose ready-made meals and sandwiches, and I chose a rice bowl. The prices were reasonable, around CAD 8's 12, less than 10 euros equivalent. The taste was even more surprising. For convenience store food, the quality was excellent. The food was piping hot like it had just been cooked, and the side dishes were fresh. The nephews kept saying it was delicious, giving it a thumbs up. Grandma also said it was clean and tasty. Leaving the convenience store, I looked around. It was almost midnight, but people were still moving on the streets. Joggers, cyclists, couples out for a walk. It was all very normal. The streetlights were bright, and security cameras were installed everywhere, ensuring safety. The nephews wanted to walk around more. Though my parents looked concerned, I remembered the front desk staff's guarantee that the neighborhood was very safe. In the end, we decided to walk around the hotel for about 30 minutes. It was an astonishing experience. Walking at night, I never felt uneasy. Instead, I felt free. This was an unimaginable scene in Czechia. People were resting on benches in the park. Young people were chatting and drinking beverages in front of the convenience store. On the way back to the hotel, everyone had the same thought: Canada truly is a different country. From the first day, it exceeded all expectations. I woke up early on the second day because of jet lag, opening my eyes around 5 a.m. Looking out the window, people were already out on the street, exercising, commuting. The city was waking up. Grandpa also woke up early, and we decided to take a walk together near the hotel. The morning air was fresh. As we walked, we came across a small park where elders were gathered exercising. Grandpa watched with interest, and one of the elders walked over to greet us. Although he didn't speak English, he used body language to invite us to exercise together. That day, we decided to take the subway TTC for sightseeing downtown. Since there were 20 of us, the subway was more efficient than multiple taxis. We walked to the nearest station. The entrance was easy to find, with large signs and guidance maps everywhere. Entering the subway station, I was startled. It was much cleaner than I imagined. The floor was sparkling and the walls were clean. Most importantly, there was no odor whatsoever. Old subway stations in Europe all have a characteristic smell, but here there was none. Buying a transit card presto was also simple. Several automated ticket machines were available, and we could easily buy and load the cards by following the on-screen instructions. The machines processed the transaction quickly, even for 20 people's worth. Going down to the platform screen, doors were installed for safety. The electronic display board accurately showed when the next train would arrive. It showed an ETA of 2 minutes and 30 seconds, and the train truly arrived punctually. The inside of the train was also surprising. The seating arrangement was efficient. Handholds were installed at different heights, making it easy for everyone from children to adults to grab. There were priority seats, and most passengers left them vacant. When Grandma went to sit down, a young person immediately offered their seat. The internet signal was smooth on the subway as well. The nephews were fascinated looking down at their phones. It was amazing that communication was smooth, so deep underground. In Europe, stable internet access on the metro is often difficult to expect. We arrived at a place called Queen Street West, known for its shopping and diverse food scene. Stepping out, we immediately felt the lively atmosphere. Although it was a weekend and there were many people, it felt vibrant rather than crowded. Walking down the street, we stopped in front of a Canadian-style diner. The menu had large photos and English descriptions. A dish called classic poutine caught my eye, golden fries topped with gravy and cheese curds. It looked hearty. We entered the diner. The owner seemed a little flustered when 20 people walked in at once, but quickly arranged seating for us. He pushed 2 tables together so everyone could sit together. We ordered using a tablet. Every menu item had a photo and description, making it easy to choose. When the food arrived, everyone exclaimed. The presentation was colorful with golden fries and fresh green garnishes arranged harmoniously. The taste was also wonderful. A gravy called the signature was particularly impressive. Grandma was satisfied, saying the fresh toppings were delicious. During the meal, the owner came over and gave us traditional Canadian maple taffy as a complimentary service, thanking us for having so many foreign guests. That warm gesture touched our hearts. The bill was also a shock. 20 people ate heartily, but the total amount was less than expected. It was about CAD 10-15 per person, equivalent to around 5 to 10 euros. After the meal, we walked around the street. There were many artisan craft shops. My sister was interested and walked into one. The shop assistant explained things in English and offered samples to try. The prices were reasonable and the quality seemed excellent. As evening approached, we prepared to return to the hotel. The nephews looked reluctant, wishing they could explore more. The day felt too short. On the subway ride back, everyone was tired, but their faces were bright. The first days in Canada had exceeded all expectations. Something unexpected happened on the 3rd day. My 4-year-old nephew lost his phone on the subway. He later realized he had left it on the seat when he stood up. My parents were frantic, knowing how difficult it is to recover a lost phone abroad. We went to the station attendant's booth and explained the situation. The staff member responded calmly. They asked for the line and direction of the train and immediately input the information into the system. Amazingly, we received a call in less than 10 minutes. The staff at the next station had found the phone on the seat. The attendant directed us, saying we could recover it at the next stop. Indeed, when we reached the next station, the phone was kept securely in the station office. After a simple identity verification process, we got it back immediately. The nephew was overjoyed, and my parents breathed a sigh of relief. Even more surprising was what the staff member said next. They smiled and said this happens often, explaining that the lost and found system is well established, so most items are recovered. Indeed, one side of the office was organized with unclaimed umbrellas, bags, and wallets. The existence of such a system was surprising in itself. That evening, we had another concern. My sister is vegetarian. We later found out that much of Canadian and Torontonian cuisine uses meat or seafood. We worried about finding a suitable restaurant. But a search revealed more vegetarian restaurants than we imagined. We went to a plant-based restaurant, a place that reinterpreted traditional vegetarian fare in a modern way. Stepping inside, we smelled a faint, fresh aroma. The wooden decor created a peaceful atmosphere. All the food was made only with plant-based ingredients, but the flavors were rich dishes made with mushrooms, tofu, and various greens. The variety was extensive. My sister was very satisfied. She said it was not easy to find such a diverse and delicious vegetarian meal even in Europe. The family members who were not vegetarian also enjoyed the meal. It was healthy and clean food. After dinner, we decided to go to the CN Tower. It was amazing that such a skyscraper stood in the heart of the city. We took the high-speed elevator up, and the night view from the window was beautiful. The entire city sparkled with lights. Reaching the observation deck, glass surrounded us on all sides, offering a 360-degree view of Toronto. The vast lake, Lake Ontario, stretched alongside the city, and the skyscrapers rose like a metal forest. In the distance, we could still see the greenbelt and conservation areas. The fact that a large city was surrounded by such natural scenery was impressive, Grandpa exclaimed, saying the city planning was truly excellent. He said it was the first time he had seen a city balance development and preservation so well. Indeed, Toronto's modern buildings, diverse neighborhoods, and nature blended harmoniously. Leaving the observation deck, we walked around and discovered a small, quiet cafe inside the tower complex. It was special to find such a peaceful tea house in a skyscraper. We went in and ordered tea. The menu of local and international teas was extensive. A staff member introduced the characteristics of various teas. We ordered Canadian breakfast tea specialty, herbal blends, and ice wine tea, sharing them among us. Drinking tea and looking out the window, the city lights became clearer as the night deepened. The time spent quietly drinking tea with my family in the tranquil cafe, enjoying the night view, was peaceful. I thought that these accumulated moments are what make travel memories. That evening, we returned to the hotel and held a family meeting. Everyone shared their impressions of the trip so far. Everyone's reaction was overwhelmingly positive. Grandma, in particular, said she was moved by the kindness of the Canadian people. Every time she asked for directions, they would kindly point the way, and in difficult situations, they would try their best to help. On the fourth morning, we decided to have a special cultural experience. Instead of traditional garments, we decided to embrace the famous Canadian outdoors culture. We heard that in a nearby provincial park like Rouge National Urban Park, there were places to rent or buy iconic Canadian flannel and lumberjack attire. It seemed fun for the whole family to dress up. Arriving at the park's visitor center, the surrounding nature made it feel like time had stopped. Traditional wood and stone structures housed the facilities. We went into an outfitting shop. Hundreds of flannel shirts and outdoor vests were displayed by color and style. The staff recommended suitable colors and designs for each person. They suggested an elegant deep red for Grandma and a solid dark blue vest for Grandpa. For the nephews, they chose brightly colored patterns. Changing clothes took longer than expected. Flannel shirts, while simple, required a certain way to wear them just right, and the staff helped one by one. When everyone was dressed in the outdoor gear and stood in front of the mirror, a burst of applause erupted. The appearance was completely different from our usual selves. The rugged coolness of the flannel and the vests made everyone look transformed. Grandma looked particularly cheerful, her face full of smiles. Dressed in our outdoor gear, we walked the trails of the park. Climbing up a path, a viewpoint appeared overlooking the forest and the distant Lake Ontario. We took a family photo there. The natural backdrop of the woods and the vast water was special. While taking photos, other tourists also showed interest. A large family of 20, all in matching outdoor attire, was quite a sight. Several people asked to take photos with us, and we happily agreed. A local family praised us, saying it looked wonderful for such a large family to travel together. Lunch was at a traditional Canadian diner near the park. Eating in our flannel shirts made the atmosphere even more special. The restaurant interior was also rustic and cozy. We were led to a large booth. The food arrived on large platters. I was surprised by the spread. There were more than 10 small dishes, poutine, fresh-cut fries, various homemade pickles, and rich meat pies. The variety was extensive, and each one tasted different, clearly prepared with care. The main dish was a sharing platter of rich, savory stew. The ingredients were tender, and the broth was flavorful. During the meal, the owner came over to introduce the dishes. He explained what each dish was made of and its significance, telling us that Canadian comfort food is not just for filling the stomach, but also holds the philosophy of caring for others and cherishing family gatherings. In the afternoon, we experienced a local craft, a maple syrup tasting and demonstration. We watched a presentation on the process of making maple syrup. The teacher demonstrated the steps one by one. The temperature of the sugar, the time to boil, the method of pouring everything had its nuance. Trying to make our own small syrup candy was harder than expected. Controlling the consistency and timing was difficult. But the process itself was like meditation. It slowly calmed the mind. We tasted the finished maple syrup, pure sweetness and rich flavor harmoniously blended. The teacher explained that a good syrup has different flavors at the beginning, middle, and end. Indeed, upon closer taste, the first spoonful was intense, then it gradually mellowed, leaving a lingering, delicate aftertaste in the mouth. It was a special day spent experiencing local culture in our outdoor gear. I learned that Canada has not only a modern side, but also a deep history and tradition. What was even more impressive was that the tradition didn't just exist in museums, but was actively preserved and lived in people's daily lives. That evening, we returned the gear and changed back into our modern clothes, but the experience of that day seemed likely to last long in our memories. The nephews kept looking at the photos happily. Grandma said the flannel was so lovely, she wanted to take it home. Something unexpected happened early on the 6th day. Grandpa complained of chest pain. Since he normally had high blood pressure, I was very worried. I immediately called 911. The English translation service was immediately connected. After explaining the situation, the dispatcher said an ambulance was on its way. Amazingly, the arrival time was less than 5 minutes after hanging up the phone. The ambulance arrived at the hotel entrance. 2 paramedics came up with a stretcher and emergency equipment. They were fast and professional. They checked Grandpa's blood pressure and pulse, and performed a simple examination determining that he needed to go to the hospital. I rode with Grandpa and Grandma in the ambulance. The ambulance was equipped with the latest medical equipment. During transport, they continuously monitored Grandpa's condition and contacted the hospital in advance to prepare. Arriving at the hospital emergency room, medical staff were already waiting for us. We were immediately taken to an examination room for an ECG and blood tests. The entire process was fast and systematic. There was absolutely no discrimination or queuing due to being foreigners. Fortunately, there was no major problem. The diagnosis was a temporary symptom caused by travel fatigue and difficulty adjusting to jet lag, the doctor explained in detail in English. He said that after taking the medicine and resting for about a day, he would be fine. I was worried about the cost. Although we had overseas travel insurance, I wondered how much the emergency room use and various tests would cost. I was lost. When I received the bill at the cashier, it was much cheaper than expected. The ambulance fee, emergency consultation fee, and examination fees all added up to only about CAD 300, 300s, 500. The staff explained that healthcare costs in Canada are relatively reasonable. They said that because the universal health insurance system is well established, it is even cheaper for citizens. They also noted that foreigners with travel insurance can usually claim back most of the costs. Leaving the hospital, I felt relieved. I had been worried about what to do in an emergency abroad. It was surprising to receive such a swift and professional response. At that moment, I personally experienced how advanced the healthcare system truly was. Back at the hotel, Grandpa lay in bed. He took the medicine the doctor prescribed and rested. The family looked on with concern, but by evening, Grandpa had recovered significantly. His complexion was better and he ate dinner. The next morning, Grandpa said he was fine. He wanted to continue the trip, but we decided not to push it. We modified the plan, choosing not to schedule strenuous activities, but to relax leisurely and take only light walks. That afternoon, we walked in a small park near the hotel. Grandpa walked slowly, looking around. The park facilities were excellent. People were resting on benches and children were running around. It was a peaceful scene. While resting on a bench, an elderly woman walked over. Although she spoke a different language, perhaps a local immigrant language, we could communicate through a translation app. She asked where we were from. I replied from Czechia. She smiled happily and held my hand. She took candy from her pocket and shared it with the nephews. I chatted with the elderly woman for a long time. She asked how many grandchildren I had, if my family was healthy, and how the trip was going. Although the conversation was slow through the translation app, the warmth was fully conveyed. When we said goodbye, the grandmother waved her hand, inviting us to come again. That brief encounter was very heartwarming. I felt that human hearts are connected even when languages are different. I realized the depth of Canadian kindness. It was touching to be treated so kindly, even as unfamiliar foreigners. That evening, we had a simple meal using room service at the hotel. Grandpa seemed completely recovered. It looked like we could resume the normal itinerary starting tomorrow. The family was relieved. On the 7th day, my social media began to change. Photos and videos I had posted during the trip started receiving a flood of comments. At first, it was reactions from friends asking questions like, "Is Canada really that clean? Is it safe?" The interest from my Czech friends grew. When I posted a photo of the convenience store food, the reaction was particularly enthusiastic. Many people commented that they found it hard to believe such a variety of food was available past midnight. The subway video was the same. Many people reacted, saying it was amazing to have such a clean and punctual subway. One friend sent a message saying he had gone to the Maple Leaf Mart in Prague. He said he saw my video and wanted to eat Canadian food. He said he bought maple cookies and pancake mix. Another friend said he had started looking for Canadian movies to watch. My sister said her colleagues kept asking her how to prepare for a trip to Canada, how much it cost, and if it was safe. Several colleagues said they were already checking flights. Our trip was influencing more people than we thought. The night before returning to Czechia, we held a family meeting. The 20 of us gathered to talk about our feelings about the trip. Grandpa spoke first. He said he had never seen such an orderly, safe, and systematic country. He also praised the kind people and the wonderful system. Grandma said the food was really delicious. She liked that she could eat healthy and diverse food every day, adding that the plentiful vegetable dishes made her feel good. My parents' generation praised the public transport system. They said such accurate and clean subways were rare even in Europe. They also mentioned that elevators and escalators were everywhere, making it easy for the elderly and young children to move around. My uncle was surprised by the technology. He said that automation systems, translation apps, and self-service kiosks naturally integrated into various aspects of life. But what impressed him most was that the technology was there not to replace people, but to assist them. The nephews said Canada was fun. They mentioned that there were many things for young people to enjoy, like local street culture and late-night markets. They said the most important thing was that they could safely wander until late at night. I said that the kindness of the Canadian people was what impressed me most. When asking for directions, they would stop and tell me, and in difficult situations, they would try their best to help. These gestures were heartwarming. I also felt the care extended to foreigners. Everyone agreed on one thing: they wanted to visit again. 2 weeks was too short. They wanted to see more places and have more experiences. Someone suggested coming back not next year, but within this year. Everyone agreed. That evening, a wave of sadness washed over me as I packed my luggage. The 2 weeks spent in Canada felt like a dream. At first I was half skeptical of the video, but after coming here, I found it was even better than the video: a safe, clean, and convenient country. The moment we checked out at Toronto Pearson, I felt the greatest regret. I didn't want to go back. The nephews also kept sighing. We browsed the duty-free shop at the airport for some last-minute shopping. We bought maple syrup, tea, snacks, and souvenirs for friends. We boarded the plane. I looked out the window as the land of Canada slowly receded. I vowed in my heart that I would definitely return. After more than 10 hours of flying, we arrived in Prague, returning to our familiar home, but our hearts felt empty. The changes started the day after we returned home. Calls and messages from friends asking about the trip to Canada flooded in. When we went out for coffee, the only topic of conversation was Canada. Everyone was interested. It was the same at the office. My colleagues made me tell stories about Canada and show them photos during lunchtime, and they were amazed. Several said they had already booked tickets. One colleague said he had started learning English and French. I was shocked when I went to the local Maple Leaf Mart near my house. There were significantly more Czech people there. A place previously visited only by immigrants now had more local customers. The owner greeted me happily, saying business was booming. About a month later, the family group chat became active again. The nephews started watching Canadian shows and movies. My uncle looked for Canadian news. Grandma said she bought a Canadian cookbook. She tried making poutine at home and said it was delicious. 3 months later, we gathered again. This time, it was to specifically plan the trip back to Canada. Although it was difficult for all 20 people to go, about 10 seemed possible. We set a date and started checking flights. I started learning English and French. I signed up for an online course and learned a little every day, simple greetings and basic phrases. Next time, I want to order food in English or French. My social media following also increased significantly. People interested in traveling to Canada constantly sent me messages, mostly asking for recommendations. They asked where to go, what to eat, and how to prepare. I answered in as much detail as possible. About half a year later, I truly returned to Canada. This time there were 10 of us: Grandpa, Grandma, my parents, and a few nephews. Because it was the second visit, we were more relaxed. We revisited the places we went to the first time and explored new ones. What was surprising was the speed of change. In half a year, new things had appeared, a new subway line had opened, and new attractions had emerged. It was a constantly developing city. Even now, I still think about Canada. My family and I frequently eat Canadian food, watch Canadian movies, and follow Canadian news. Canada is now a special country for us. It's not just a tourist destination, but a place where our hearts are connected. That one short video changed our family's destiny. I learned how important it is to experience new things without prejudice. Canada taught us many things. It showed us how a safe society, efficient systems, and kind people can coexist harmoniously. I will continue to visit Canada in the future. Now, I plan to bring my own children with me too. I hope more people can understand the true face of Canada. I hope they can personally feel the emotions that videos or photos cannot fully convey. That concludes today's story. How was the story of the 20-person Czech family's 2-week trip to Canada? Please leave a supportive comment for the main characters of the story. This was a story brought to you by the Emotion Station. If you enjoyed this story, please like and subscribe. Thank you for watching.